When you think of survival horror greats, what usually comes to mind? Is it something from Shinji Mikami? Is it something from Konami? Or is it Dead Space? But today, I want to raise a toast to a great survival horror classic that came out in 2005 that wasn't Resident Evil 4. Intro. But first, a word from our sponsors. Nerdaffiliated.com. Go to nerdaffiliated.com. You can get all our great merch. You can get our matching cups. You can get our hats, our sweaters, our t-shirts. Join the Nerd Foundation or be a degenerate nerd. Check out the links down on the bottom. Nerdaffiliated.com. Check out our Discord. Check out our Reddit. Reddit. Every year around this time, I usually pop in one of my favorite survival horror games. And more times than not, it ends up being Resident Evil, the remake. And I try to play it from beginning to end, considering that Halloween is upon us. But this year, I was thinking about doing something different. And the game that came to mind is 2005's Condemned Criminal Origin. I originally played Condemned Criminal Origin on the Xbox 360. It was also released on Microsoft Windows. And it was created by Sega and Monolith Studios. Monolith Studios, who's famous for the Fear series and the Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth, Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor. Story follows Ethan Thomas. He's an FBI serial killer expert, and he's out on an investigation to hunt down another serial killer who is copycatting other serial killers. The world you find yourself in is in Metro City. Metro City is dark and dirty. It's a very New York City type vibe. Think Jack Lupino, Max Payne, drug-induced type underworld with dirty warehouses and dirty back alleys. One of the interesting things about this game which made it stand out is that it was mostly melee focused, which was one of its strong points. Most games back then, especially the horror games, they followed you using firearms, using guns. And one of the interesting things with this game is that the guns were incredibly powerful and incredibly rare. And they encouraged you to use melee weapons. And one of the big tricks was you could pull weapons from anywhere. You could pull a 2x4 off a door. You could pull a gas pipe off and hit somebody with a valve. And it was dark and visceral, and everything felt good. The weapons had a nice weight. You could swing from all different directions, and it really pulled you in. It was really a dark, creepy kind of game. And a lot of the encounters were one-on-one, which made it really interesting. Now, you're talking about melee combat in a first-person shooter game, 17 years ago. This was something where now it's more common. Now you see games like Skyrim and they're using it. It wasn't common back then. Another thing also is that they had a detective mode type thing where you would look for fingerprints and stuff. This is something that wouldn't be capitalized on again until the Arkham series 10 years later, which is kind of interesting because it's so far ahead of its time, and it came out in 2005 being overshadowed by Resident Evil 4. But it had great reviews. The reviews came in from most sources are in between a 7 and 8.5, which is very solid. But no one talks about Condemned the same way they talk about Resident Evil 4. Granted, Resident Evil 4 is one of the greatest ever. The gameplay would go on to influence other games, some greats of today, Outlast and PT and even Resident Evil 7, but doesn't get the same recognition. So today, Condemned Criminal Origin, I raise a toast to you, to a great survival horror game that was lost to the odes of time. Enjoy.